Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I would like to formally welcome you on behalf of Muslim Institute to today's seminar on the challenges to Islamic identity of Pakistan. As you are aware, Muslim Institute, which stands for Mission of Unity, Stability and Leadership in Muslims, is a research-oriented think tank which aims to promote academic research and dialogue among Muslims towards addressing and resolving issues and concerns faced by Muslims not just in our own country but around the world. We are currently working on the broadest imaginable scope of projects involving, amongst others, the recent changes in the socio-political environment in the Muslim world, avenues for concerted development strategies towards economic progress and achievement of the Millennium Development Goal, militarization of space technology, modern family trends in the Muslim family, exploring new areas of renewable energy and answering a need for revitalizing interaction between the youth of Muslim world through education, etc. Today, among the many other challenges and threats faced by our country is a threat to its ideological foundations, a threat that aims to dismantle our greatest strength, that is the recipe of our unity. Through misinformed confusion and a false narration of history.
Mr. President, the historic 11th August speech of Quaid-e-Azam, in comparison to objective resolution passed by the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan on March 12, 1949, was by and large in consonance with the ideological continuity of Pakistan movement and not contradiction. I shall repeat, not contradiction. Firstly, because a small portion of Quaid's 11th August speech, based on certain precautions, cannot be entirely separated from the vision of two-nation theory, which he preached in his hundreds of speeches in pre-partition days as well as after the creation of Pakistan. In fact, Quaid-e-Azam was a true Muslim above caste and creed, and by dint of his selfless struggle was able to unify the scattered Muslim communities in India into one vibrant nation. He had in-depth knowledge of Quran-e-Kareem and was neither a communist nor secularist, as propagated by certain Western interests inimical to the freedom struggle of Pakistan. Perhaps Quaid-e-Azam, while making his bold statement before the Constituent Assembly, had categorical influence of Surah Al-Kafirun, in which Allah Almighty reveals in ayat number 6, "For you is your religion, for me and for me is my religion." So Quaid-e-Azam was within the prescribed limits as he was making genuine efforts to save the lives of innocent minorities both in Pakistan and India in good faith. Dissertation, it may be safely concluded that 11th August speech of Quaid was in fact part and parcel of ideological continuity for providing due security to all citizens of the country, and the objective resolution was a step forward to accomplish the desires of the father of the nation.
I would come directly to the 3 points I wish to make on the subject. One, the stability of Pakistan. Two, its survival. Three, future of its Islamic ideology. Can Pakistan survive as a secular state as against its original Islamic ethos, geographic in shape and secular in content? On this, I am reminded of Qaid's statement that if you think yourself as Punjabis, Pathans, Balochis, instead of Pakistanis first, Pakistan will disintegrate. I also recall what the famous lawyer A.K. Broi at one time wrote in magazine Impact: minus Islam, Pakistan will fall back into the lap of Indian history. I should like to add that Pakistan is an ideology tied to a land and a land tied to an ideology. One minus the other cannot exist. That is, the land mass of Pakistan is not a nation minus that ideology on which it was created. Federation in political science is described as the desire to retain unity of the federation is stronger, or ethnic identity is allowed up to a limit, but not challenging the federal unity. That is the basic of a federation. The same in the Holy Quran. Tribal identity is for identification. Ethno-nationalism is a claim for the ethnic identity to be sovereign. Ethno-national states can therefore be confederal, not federal.
Is Islamic identity a hindrance to internal development in Pakistan? Is the subject assigned to me today. Pakistan is a typical post-colonial third world country. The Kora Sahib has been supplanted by his native counterpart. Our political system is based loosely on the Westminster model, with hardly any moral checks and balances. The recent collapse of the Soviet Union dealt a death blow to the Marxist-Leninist worldview. The USSR disintegrated despite its 10,000 plus nuclear weapons, its political and economic models having become suicidally dysfunctional. The divorce rate in the US in 1950s was 1 to 2%. Today, it exceeds 60% in marriages that have lasted just a few years. Human history illustrates that the family is the most fundamental building block of human societies. When the family disintegrates, social disintegration must follow inevitably. The West, therefore, like the former Soviet Union, is not a model worthy of emulation by the rest of humanity. The most remarkable phenomenon of modern history, however, is the enormous rapidity, says Allama Iqbal, with which the world of Islam is moving spiritually towards the West.
Pakistan is distinctly different, and Islam is a unifying base for Pakistan's strategic culture, Pakistan's decision-making, and Pakistan's raison d'etre as a state. It cannot be replaced unless and until the Muslims of the subcontinent, and most importantly, I make a reference here about the Muslims which have tagged along to the psychological level of every Pakistani, whether they have been on decision-making levels or whether they have been in other forms, has remained on the conscious of the Pakistanis, has been the fate of the Indian Muslims in the subcontinent. it was believed that the progressive abilities or the progression or the economic development which Pakistan would see would become a sure sense of security for the Muslims in the subcontinent. The Pakistani history has been rampant with power struggles exercised by each power sector to prolong their stay in the corridors of power. The Islamic ideology in the country, however, reached a turning point in the 1970s, when we believed that the leftists emerged on the political scene of the West Pakistan and given rise to politics of Islam. Subsequently, religious parties gained popularity by using the slogan of Islam to mobilize the masses. Importantly, however, these parties never desired to be part of the decision or the security decision-making of the country. This is a very important point because the security decision-making of the country or the way the state has seen itself remained predominantly with the bureaucracy of Pakistan and with a very different elite rather than the religious elite.
Before I venture to throw some light on possible reasons because of which international players are endeavoring to de-Islamize Pakistan, we must understand Pakistan's strategic significance. And in this context, it is important to note that from energy and resource point of view, Middle East and Central Asian republics are world's heartlands. If the globe was an egg, the energy-rich Middle East and Central Asian republics would be regarded as its yolk. This Islamic region is an energy backbone around which the entire world revolves. As regards Pakistan, it is called a golden land bridge, which not only connects the two wings of this unique heartland, but also provides an opening to Arabian Sea through Balochistan. Allama Muhammad Iqbal, the renowned scholar and philosopher of 20th century, in his different write-ups, bitterly criticized the separation of church from the state. You may recall his poetic verse, Juda ho deen, siyasat se to reh jati hai changezi. He was of the view that separation of religion from the state affairs had in fact taken away the moral values and ethics from the statecraft. He opined that had states not been separated from the churches, First World War, which brought miseries to millions of human lives, could be averted. To conclude, I would say that Western world has a totally wrong perception of Islam. They link Islam with militancy, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Pakistan's foundation is Islamic. All the speakers have said so, and it is no dispute. But what Islam? There are three Islams: the Islam of the conquerors, the Islam of the mullahs, and Islam of the Sufis. The Islam of the conquerors is the Islam which deteriorated eventually into the Islam of the extremists and terrorists. And the Islam of the mullah has deteriorated into factions, quibbling over minor details and rejecting the fundamentals. The Islam of the Sufi is the Islam of love, of affection, of compassion, of cooperation, of understanding, of humanity, of generosity, of zakat, and of sacrifice. And this was the Islam which spread in the South Asian subcontinent through the Sufis. there is no such thing as foreign policy. Foreign policy is only the reflection and projection of what is your internal reality. But soon after independence, we abandoned our vision and took up two extreme positions. The non-believers wanted to give it a secular interpretation, and the fundamentalists or orthodoxy gave it another extreme position. And the real vision of the Qaid was lost.
In order to conclude the seminar, I would like to make a few comments on today's topic. We sacrificed our small, communal, linguistic, sectarian, and ethnic identities for the sake of coming together around a greater and truer identity for ourselves. But because of not having read and studied those arguments made by the great lawyer like Quaid-e-Azam, and by presenting confused interpretations and not understanding the true spirit of those arguments, we have again confined ourselves to our segregated identities. No segment of society can be blamed for this crisis of identity. We are collectively responsible as a society and for this misgiving identity. بہت سے لوگ اس سلسلے میں اسلامی شناخت کے کمپلیکس کا الزام نوجوان طبقے پر لگاتے ہیں کہ نوجوانوں میں اسلامی شناخت کا کمپلیکس ہے، لیکن میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ اس تجزیے کو ریویو کرنے کی ضرورت ہے، کیونکہ جس چیز کو ہم نے نوجوانوں کے سامنے اسلامی شناخت بنا کر پیش کیا ہے، میرے خیال میں وہ اسلامی شناخت نہیں بلکہ وہ ایک مذہبی سٹیٹس کو ہے، اور آزاد جذبہ کا نوجوان کسی بھی طرح کسی بھی سٹیٹس کو ماننے سے منحرف ہے۔ مذہبی سٹیٹس کو اسلامی شناخت کہنے کی غلط فہمی کو دور کرنے کے لیے میرے خیال میں ہمیں ہر سطح پر کوشش کرنے کی ضرورت ہے۔ In my opinion and in my limited analysis, the independent-minded youth do not suffer from an identity complex regarding their Islamic identity, neither intellectually nor politically. Societies which have found it fashionable to adopt a Western identity have been forced into subservience under Western-backed political dictatorship, and intellectual freedom is always born from the womb of the independence and expansion of education and knowledge. In my opinion, not having a knowledge or education-friendly society is one of the prime causes of our identity crisis. I would further say that what little knowledge we have is based on extraction rather than creative expression. Islam has always flourished in a knowledge-friendly society. اور میں اپنی بات کو اختتام کی طرف لے جاتے ہوئے یہ کہنا چاہوں گا کہ اسلامی شناخت کے قیام کا فارمولہ میرے خیال میں وہ سب سے بہترین ہے جو حضرت قائد اعظم نے فرمایا تھا کہ یونٹی، فیتھ اینڈ ڈسپلن. یو شوڈ نوٹ واٹ اے گریٹ رول یونٹی، فیتھ اینڈ ڈسپلن have in the stability and continuity of nations from their identity. Take unity for example. Look at how the Ottoman Empire was divided into pieces in the name of individual identity by attacking their common unity. Even today, if we let go of our Islamic identity, which is our only unifying bond, then our end will not be a peaceful and amicable one, as has been witnessed by history many times before. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe to solidify our identity and make it a source of our stability and strength. There is only but one cure of this crisis of identity, and that is Quaid-e-Azam's formulation of unity, faith, and discipline. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.